This Pitch Breakfast video is brought to you by Spangler and Agans, attorneys for Charlotte's startup community.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Chris Martin, and I'm the founder of Tobu Discs. I have developed the world's first disc-off disc with onboard technology. When paired with the Tobu app for the iPhone or the Android, you can now track where your disc landed, measure the distance of your throw, illuminate your disc for night play, and so much more. Now, every disc-off player has lost a disc while playing. Not only does it slow down gameplay for everyone, but at $20 a piece, it can be expensive to replace lost discs. To put things into perspective, think about the game of ball golf. When you lose a golf ball, you can simply take another one from your bag and the game's not affected. But losing a disc-off disc is like losing a golf club. You lose the functionality and flight pattern of that disc, which can majorly affect your game. Now, I've spent the last 2 years developing a solution to this problem. The Tobu disc is the only disc-off disc on the market that has been developed with onboard technology, with electronics. All right? The electronics are modular, so you can remove the electronics such as the Bluetooth tracking module or the Starlight LED module based on your playing conditions. You can then use the Tobu application to find exactly where your disc landed. And not only that, the application is also tracking the distance of your throw, scoring for each player, and even helping you to find courses. But I didn't want to stop there. Because players sometimes play in wet conditions, I've developed a specially textured inside rim to give you maximum gripability on the disc. Now, disc golf is one of the fastest growing sports in America right now. There are over 1 million players in the United States alone, and that number is growing at about 10% per year. The demographic for my product is college-educated males between the ages of 20 and 49. Alternate markets where disc golf is popular are Japan and Sweden. Tournaments are played worldwide, and ESPN has even started covering the sport. Now, as for competition, there are some beepers and glow sticks that you can attach to your disc, but attaching anything to a disc-off disc negatively affects the disc's flight pattern. Additionally, anytime you attach something to a disc, it will fall off or break when that disc makes impact with the ground or with trees. Tobu has a fully integrated system that's been designed to account for the additional weight of the electronics, and it will not fall off or break upon impact. Now, as for the application, there are other applications on the market that will help you find disc golf courses and keep score for you, but none of them is integrated into the game the way the Tobu application is. I am the sole owner of Tobu Discs LLC, and as such, I wear all the hats in my company. The majority of my time, though, has been spent focused on the research and development to make my product a reality. So consequently, I haven't really been able to focus on the sales and marketing activities for my business. So the 600 units that have been sold this past year have mostly been through word of mouth and social media. And you can see here, well, you could see here that my discs retail for about $35.95. Now, the majority of my sales have come through the Tobu website, but recently I have established 2 sponsored players to act as brand ambassadors for my brand, and I've established authorized distributors in 6 countries around the world. Now, Tobu has achieved quite a few milestones so far. I am the first to market with a disc tracking system. There is nothing like it in the marketplace right now. I ran a Kickstarter campaign where I successfully raised 109% of my $10,000 goal in 30 days. I filed for a patent with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, and I am currently patent pending. I successfully petitioned the PDGA, which is the Professional Disc Golf Association, to change their international standards to allow Tobu discs in tournament play. And finally, the Tobu disc is featured in the U.S. Disc Golf Museum as the first disc of its kind with onboard electronics. Now, I've invested about $85,000 in my business so far without incurring any debt. With that, I've created a fully functioning product and determined market demand as well. But in order to grow my business and meet the demands of my customers, I still need funding. The amount of funding that I'm asking for right now is $200,000. With that, I plan on hiring a full-time marketing director who will implement the sales and marketing plan that I have developed, because there is a huge opportunity for additional online and retail sales, tournaments and trade shows, and even a paid version of the Tobu application. I plan on doing more research and development to expand my line of discs and create modules that will track the speed, rotation, and even the flight pattern of each of the discs. And of course, I have a few major updates planned for the application as well. I want to thank you all for taking time to learn about my business, and I welcome any questions that you might have.
Chris, very nice job on the presentation. So I'm kind of curious. So prior to hearing Chris speak this morning, how many of you in the audience had heard of disc golf? Okay, almost everybody. Great. How many of you actually played disc golf? Wonderful. Well, there you go. Again, a very good job. I think you laid out, problem, solution. You did competition, right? You talked about how much you wanted and use of funds. So I think you hit all the high points for an investor deck. So thank you for doing that. Couple of I really liked what you the analogy you used, and again, sometimes with a technology solution, giving somebody an analogy really helps. So the comment that you made about this would be akin for those people that play regular golf or old golf, maybe old golf, right? It's like losing a golf club, and for those and by the way, I've played disc golf for 20 years, so it really is like losing a golf club. So I do think there's value in doing that. The one, and again, you did market, you did competition. I appreciated that. The one thing that I was left wondering a little bit about is, for those people that play, they have their favorite discs, and they're, it's sort of like, it's very much like selecting a set of golf clubs, right? So you've got people that are focused on different brands. There are actually a lot of players out there in terms of manufacturers of discs. Why did you go with the integrated solution versus sort of a plug-in that could be appended to another disc?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've actually been asked that quite a few times. We started out with something that would attach to the disc and accomplish the same thing, but as I mentioned before, it would continue to fall off. I don't care how strongly you adhered any device to a disc, it does break and fall off. So what we found was that creating the disc with the integrated technology was the only way to get it to stay on. But in addition, like I mentioned before, attaching anything to the disc does affect the disc's flight pattern. So my discs have been designed from the ground up to account for that additional weight. However, we did have a lot of people say, I love playing with Innova or Discraft, and I don't want to play with your disc, but I love your technology and I'd love to use it so I don't lose my favorite disc. So there was market demand, so we did create our technology. It looks just like this, but it will adhere to other discs on the market. So we do have that available.
And this is a common question for any startup, and especially one that's got a technology focus. So the decision then to do, I'm going to do kind of the vertically integrated, I'm going to do the manufacture of the disc, I'm going to do it integrated, versus saying, hey, look, I can go to the large disc manufacturers and license them my technology. Did you consider that from a distribution point of view?
Yeah, absolutely. The reason I decided to go this route is because the resources were made available. I was introduced through a family friend to a gentleman who owns a plastic molding company. And he said, we can absolutely make discs. And after doing the research to find out that it wasn't the best option to use a technology that would adhere to a disc, we decided to integrate it, and he was able to help me develop that technology.
And then one last question, I'll pass it over here. On your price point, at $35.95, it might have been interesting from an investor point of view for you to talk about what a standalone, what does normal disc pricing look like, and versus what premium are you getting for that? And then the last point on that front, you probably need to address a little bit more why only 600 units so far, because you said you've been selling these for a year, I think. And probably the biggest thing that would give me pause about your presentation would be market penetration at only 600 units.
Chris, really nice job. I thought great presentation. I have a list of like 8 things that are my standard checklist when people present, and I think you hit about 6 of them. So nice job with the presentation. You have a good presentation style. So like everything. Are you an engineer by trade?
I'm not. I'm just an entrepreneur.
Okay.
I worked for 2 years to make this happen. As any of you that play disc golf know that this isn't a new idea. It's just no one has taken the time to actually do it and make it happen. And once I jumped into this and committed myself to making it happen, I realized why. It was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, specifically because I didn't understand the aerodynamics of the disc. So I had to teach myself that first, and then teach myself how adding that additional weight to the center affected it, and then adjust the disc accordingly to get a quality product.
So is it, is there a governing body that says that this disc can be used in events, and are you good?
Absolutely. So I went to the Professional Disc Golf Association. They are the governing body for the standards on disc golf worldwide. I told them what I was doing from the beginning. They told me that their biggest problem when holding a tournament is the delay of game due to lost discs. And they said, we love what you're doing if you can do it. And so I worked with them. I worked with them on the specifications, the dimensions, the technology I was using. I involved them from the beginning. And they finally said, yes, we like what you're doing, and it is approved. And then they made a national announcement that they changed their standards, to allow discs with electronics.
That's great, great. So you get the $200,000 investment. You start to get to scale. Talk about the supply chain, your manufacturing. When you're pumping out 600 of these a day, what does that look like?
Well, so I do have like I said, a manufacturer who he actually owns the disc molding company that I've partnered with. We can manufacture about 1,000 discs in about a 3-week period. So it's a little bit on the smaller side, but we do have the ability to scale. He's got a lot of capabilities there and additional resources for making the discs. The electronics are custom made for us, and it takes about the same amount of time, about 3 weeks to get it made. So I would say just with shipping and having it ready to go to market, about a month's time to restock on inventory and be able to supply the market.
Mm-hmm. And what's your cost of goods sold look like on the $35.95 price point?
I have about a 50% profit margin on them.
Okay, great. Nice job.
Thank you.
Can you talk a bit about your channels, distribution, retail?
Sure. Well, so I think I'd shown on that one slide that I've established authorized distributors in 6 different countries around the world. Of course, I've established a relationship with a freight forwarder who is giving me great rates on being able to get those shipped around. I do have a warehouse in Singapore, so when it comes to shipping to anywhere in Europe or Asia, of course I can do it a lot cheaper than I would from here in the United States. I've also got a authorized distributor on the West Coast with storage capabilities as well. So, coming out of North Carolina, California, and Singapore, I've got 3 different locations around the world to ship from. And then these locations are receiving discs on a regular basis as well.
Are you prepared for licensing? So if I was Nike, I can just say, hey, I just want to slap my check on the disc.
Yeah, absolutely. So we plan for that. I mean, that's been one of my strategies all along, right? Because the disc golf market is extremely segmented, and there's some really large players out there. So I'm a small fish in a big pond at the moment. It's absolutely been one of my goals to begin licensing the technology, and I'm at that point now where I'm beginning to have some of those conversations.
Chris Martin, ladies and gentlemen. Well done. Well done.